Okay, dun sa ating structure ng ating nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, so meron pa rin tayong, okay, meron pa rin tayong adenine. Okay, that's the nitrogenous base. We have here the pentose sugar ribose. We still have two molecules of phosphate. That's why these are collectively known as the ADP, adenosine diphosphate. And then we have on the second phosphate here, meron tayong another, we have here another ribose, and so meron tayong second ribose dyan, aside from the first ribose in the adenosine diphosphate. And then from that second ribose, meron tayong naka-attach na nicotinamide. The nicotinamide, we know that this is a B3 component, vitamin B3 component of niacin. Okay? So we have again the NADH, the NAD plus and the NADH. The NAD, yung walang hydrogen is the oxidized form, and the NADH is the reduced form. Okay. For the last important biochemical or metabolism intermediate, we have the coenzyme A, or pag sinusulat natin, CoASH. Bakit yung SH na isusulat? Ito yung SH na nasa dulo. Because that is the active component of the coenzyme A. So this is derivative of B vitamin, particularly B5. I think B5 pantothenic acid. Okay? So we have the ADP. So tingnan natin yung kanyang structure. We have again the pentose sugar, we have the adenine, and we have the 2-phosphate group. Kaya nga ADP siya. Pero ang nagkaiba ngayon for coenzyme A, ang ating ADP ay phosphorylated. Pag sinabi natin phosphorylated, dito sa kanyang 3' carbon atom ay may another phosphate group. So si coenzyme A, may 3 phosphate group. Yung dalawa nandito sa 5th carbon atom na magkasunod dito, magka-attach yung dalawa. And the 3rd phosphate group is actually on the 3'. Titingnan natin, balikan natin yung pentose sugar nung NAD and FAD. Yung ating 3rd carbon atom ay may hydroxyl. For it to be a phosphorylated, so yung hydroxyl group has been replaced by a phosphate group. Nevertheless, ADP pa rin siya. And from that ADP, meron tayong ito yung B5 or vitamin B na component ng ating coenzyme A. This is the pantothenic acid. And at the end of this pantothenic acid, we have 2-amino ethane thiol. So, ito yung sinasabing SH, kung bakit sinusulat na CoA-SH, yung sulfhydryl, yan, sulfhydryl part ng ating coenzyme A is the active portion. So, dyan na-attach yung ating mga acetyl group. Okay? So, ulitin natin that SH is sulfhydryl. So, again, yun yung ating 4 na intermediate. Very important intermediates in our biochemical energy production. We have the adenosine phosphates. There are 3, ADP, ATP, and AMP. And then we have the NAD, and then the FAD, and then the CoA. Okay. So, i-classify naman natin yung functions ng mga ito, yung adenosine phosphates, either ATP, ADP, or AMP. They are for energy storage because they are energy-containing compounds, and they are also involved in the transfer of phosphates. So kung kailangan ng isang ATP, si ATP magiging diphosphate. So pag nag-contribute naman, nag-transfer naman si diphosphate ng isang phosphate, magiging monophosphate siya, and vice versa. Reversible yung reactions na to, denoted by these reversible arrows. Okay? Then, the NADH and the FADH naman, so sabi nga kanina, the FAD and the NAD without the H are deoxidized, and the yung may hydrogen naman are the reduced form because they are involved in the redox reactions in all metabolic processes. Okay? So, kung kanina ang trina-transfer ng mga ng mga adenosine phosphate ay phosphate group, of course, for the FAD and the NAD, flavin adenine dinucleotide and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, ang trina-transfer natin dito ay electrons naman during the metabolic processes. Okay? Now, for the transfer of acetyl group, for the transfer of acetyl group naman, we need the intermediate coenzyme A. So sabi ko kanina, the SH part of the CoA is the active portion kasi uh, dyan kakabit or dyan magbabond yung ating acetyl group para matransfer siya or para pumasok siya dun sa ating um, biochemical reactions. So remember, acetyl, pag sinabi nating acetyl, it is composed of 2 carbon only. Okay. So ito, ang overview ng biochemical energy production. So we have 4 stages. Stage 1 or the first stage, that is digestion. Digestion begins in the mouth because we have in our mouth a saliva that contains starch digesting enzyme. Then digestion continues in the stomach because of the presence of gastric juices, and digestion is completed in the small intestine because of the presence of the majority of the digestive enzymes and bile salts. Now, for the end products of stage 1 or end product of the digestion, depende yan kung ano yung na-ingest natin. If that is carbohydrates, then therefore, we are going to have a product after digestion, the glucose or any other monosaccharide, which is, we know that the building blocks of carbohydrates. Now, we also have end product of amino acids from proteins and fatty acids and glycerol for fats and oils, particularly the triacyl glycerol or subproduct of a subcategory of lipids. Okay, so um, from a big molecule, from a big biomolecules, carbohydrates, proteins, or lipids, after the stage 1, magiging small unit na lang sila. Yung building blocks na lang nila ang mapoproduce during this stage. However, yung ating mga building blocks na monosaccharide, amino acid, and glycerol and fatty acids, malaki pa rin yung molecules nila compared uh, na hindi siya ia-allow na makaprocess, na makapasok rather dun sa mga succeeding stages. Kaya meron tayong stage 2 wherein it is known as the acetyl group formation. Acetyl group, sabi ko kanina, this is only composed of 2 carbon atoms. So from glucose na 6 na carbon atom, during stage 2, kailangan niyang ma-breakdown niyang 6 carbon atoms na yan at maging acetyl na lang siya. So, magiging 2 carbon atoms na rin siya. Same is true for the fatty acids. Remember that fatty acid is very long, no? Meron tayong 20 carbon atoms, meron tayong 18 carbon atoms, linoleic, oleic. Okay? So, yung mga fatty acids na yan, very long chain ng carbon atoms na yan. So, during stage 2, that those carbon atoms, even for the amino acids, even for glycerol, dapat ma-convert siya ng acetyl. Maging 2 carbon atom siya. And during this stage, aside from converting this long chain of carbon atoms into into an acetyl group, okay, kailangan din niyang ma-attach sa coenzyme A. Kaya magkakaroon tayo dito ng acetyl-CoA. Ang maproproduce natin dito after the stage 2 is acetyl-CoA. Bakit kailangan nating makaproduce ng acetyl-CoA? Okay? Kasi si acetyl-CoA lang ang pwedeng pumasok sa third stage na citric acid cycle, which occurs inside the mitochondria. So, the acetyl-OA that was produced during stage 2 will be oxidized to produce the carbon dioxide, which is eventually part of what we exhale during the breathing processes. And aside from that carbon dioxide that was produced, nag-produce din tayo ng coenzyme NADH and FADH, which are very important intermediates kasi sila naman ang papasok dun sa fourth stage or the last stage of our metabolic processes. Now, so pag stage 4 naman na, the last stage, we have processes known as electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation. Etong dalawang to ay palaging magkasama. They are coupled, they are paired. So kapag merong electron transport chain, susunod na si oxidative phosphorylation. So sabi ko kanina, the reduced form NADH and FADH2 will actually supply the needed hydrogen and electrons for the production of ATP. And we know that ATP molecules are energy-containing compounds. So ito, yung FADH and NADH, sila na ang dahilan ng production ng ATP natin. And during these fourth stages, aside from the production of ATP, nagpo-produce, rather, nag or rather, ginagamit natin yung nai-inhale nating oxygen, molecular oxygen, para maging water molecule. Okay? So take note that stage 3 and 4 are the same for all types. Either kung kumain ka ng carbohydrates, lipids, or fats, and proteins, parehas pa rin na mag-undergo yan ng stage 4. And that is called as the common metabolic pathway. And this includes the citric acid cycle, which is for stage 3, and the electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation. Electron transport chain, sometimes we denote it as ETC, and oxidative phosphorylation as OP. Citric acid cycle or CAC. Okay? Or the Krebs cycle paminsan. Okay? So, kung ang stage 2 and stage 3 are common for all types, ang stage 3 and 4 are common for all types. Stage 1 and 2 naman ay magkakaiba. So magkaiba yung stage 1 digestion and acetyl formation ng carbohydrates, iba rin sa fat or lipids at iba rin siya sa protein group. Okay? So, as an overview, ito, i-chart na lang natin. Makita natin dito that for stage 1, the large biochemical molecules, fats, lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins, once ingested, kumain tayo, madadigest siya para si fats magiging yung building blocks niya na fatty acids and glycerol. Si carbohydrates magiging glucose, or other monosaccharides na kanyang repeating unit. And of course, si protein naman, babalik siya dun sa kanyang building blocks na mga amino acids. But again, these fatty acids, glycerol, glucose, and amino acid contains large amount of carbon atoms such that kailangan nilang mag-undergo ng stage 2 para maging acetyl group sila. Acetyl group is only 2 carbon atoms. And during this stage, that acetyl group will also be attached to the CoA para makapasok siya sa stage 3 na citric acid cycle. Because only acetyl CoA could actually fuel or could actually initiate or enter the citric acid cycle. Okay? So during the third stage, yung sabi kanina, production of carbon dioxide, which is part of our breathing processes when we exhaled. So dyan napoproduce yung carbon dioxide, and then we also have a product of the reduced form of NADH and FADH during the citric acid cycle. Take note that, remember, acetyl group yung pumasok dito sa Krebs cycle. So acetyl is 2 carbon atoms na natanggal din yung 2 carbon atoms because of the 2 molecules of carbon dioxide. And then for the last stage, stage 2, so kung ilan man yung na-produce nating NADH and FADH2 from the third or from the citric acid cycle, this will supply now the electrons and the hydrogens that are needed for the fourth stage electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation, so that many ATP molecules or adenosine triphosphate or energy containing compounds, ATP will be produced during the process. And of course, yung ating molecular oxygen na na-inhale, kailangan din natin during the process, and that will be converted into water. Again, stage 2 and stage 3 are known as the common metabolic pathway, regardless kung yan man ay carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. So common yan for all. Okay? So those are the 4 stages for our biochemical energy production.